everybody. Welcome to another episode of The Comic Source. I'm your host, Jace, welcoming one of my favorite writers back to the show to talk some Green Lantern War Journal, Phillip Kennedy Johnson. Hey, man, good to see you.
Hey man, you as well. How are you?
I'm good. I'm good. I'm actually out at the Ranger Spring Training Facility today in Phoenix with my daughter, celebrating my birthday. But
Hey,
excited to
happy
take a little
birthday.
time before. Appreciate that. But yeah, excited to take a little time to talk Green Lantern War Journal. Uh, it's just epic what's been going on. You're kind of known for your epic world building. So let me ask you first, what's your sense after the first six issues have been out there, fans have had a chance to receive them and read them? What's your sense of how the series is going so far?
I'm pretty thrilled with it, honestly. I'm really grateful to have had the chance to work on such an iconic character and a character with such a just a rabid fan base. Like John fans love John, man. So it's been really cool to see. It's been really great to have John fans who I've not necessarily interacted with online before reach out, like just like with a thank you or with very often a thank you for a specific scene or some specific element of the story that really means a lot to them to have seen. Um, a lot of people have been connecting with the importance of family to John because we haven't really seen enough of that, in my opinion. We haven't really. There's been some different takes on John over the years, and some of them have been some of the best known ones have been in the context of a team of a team book. And sometimes when you're writing a team, the challenge of that is to kind of sum up who a character is pretty concisely. Sometimes you just have like a line or two per page or per scene even. Um, and so you don't necessarily get to see as much of John as I would want, I guess. And so this is one of the mission statements of this book was to really flesh him out and make him more complex and make him, not just see him as the grizzled former military guy or whatever the shorthand for John was in that story, to get to see him as, yes, the ex-Marine, but also as the architect, also as the son, as the brother. Try to pay homage to little stories that have been really impactful over the years, like Mosaic, but also other arcs like the one where we see what happened to. There was a story from a long time ago where we saw the death of his sister. That wasn't really touched on that much after that. We see there are these very short moments where we find out about his civil rights leader mother, and I wanted to really flesh that out a lot. So getting to see those things fleshed out here and see John in a much more complex, fleshed out light, that was the whole point of it. So getting to see fans respond to that has been just the best reward.
Yeah, we talked about that last time you were on before the first issue came out, about getting back to his architect roots, about making him more vulnerable and relatable. And I think you've succeeded in that very well, partly with those scenes with his family and his mother, the fact that he left the Corps to be with his mother, but also just the fact that everybody calls him Builder, Lantern Shepherd from this other universe, the Revenant Queen. So you're really leaning into that aspect as well. And that also bleeds into the art with Montos and John's constructs. So I'm sure that's purposeful on your part. How much back and forth is there about the way those constructs are composed in the art?
There was a lot of back and forth initially, but now Montos just knows what to do. If anything, the only guidance I ever have was like, we're seeing a lot of howitzers here. Like, so usually we often see John with that gigantic ass howitzer that spools up and fires, and we're still seeing that. That's kind of like his signature thing. Like Hal loves his jets, and John likes his howitzers. So it's okay to use some of that. But the most important thing is that John. He's not just like poofing a big cartoon image into existence. He's actually making things that would work in real space with tangible objects. Like he's not just an architect. He's also kind of an engineer. And I love seeing all these things kind of come together in the constructs as they appear. Whereas we established that Shepherd is kind of a fantasy nerd. And so his constructs tend to be more like fantasy creatures. And as we continue to introduce other kinds of quote unquote light warriors in the book, I want to see more and more, like more variety of those things. Like I want to see everyone kind of showing who they are as a person through their constructs. Probably the best example, even now, I hate to say the best now because we've done a lot of issues since then, but that first issue, man, where there's that gigantic fist that explodes up out of the ground and nails Varon. there was a lot of back and forth on that image because initially it wasn't going to be a fist. It was going to be just kind of more of an abstract thing that appears. And in the layouts, Montos drew a big fist, and I was like, no, no, like that's the one thing I really want to avoid is the big boxing glove construct. That's just not John's style. And but he was like, well, the other thing wasn't really tracking though. It's not communicating what he's doing. So we went back and forth, and we found this thing where he builds something that's better than a fist. So that really communicates who John is. And in other moments, I try to show the moving pieces, like the different pieces, like clockwork coming together in the construct as he's building the thing. And we also kind of we're showing some ties to his alternate universe version. Like in the other version, he's kind of like the Paul Moadib, like chosen one version of himself, where he can actually make himself into the construct. I wanted to show that. So we're starting to show that side from now, where he's not just building constructs around himself or to help him what he's doing. He's actually making himself, he's transforming into light himself. We just kind of crossed that bridge with issue 6. So I'm really excited to start showing that part of him too, to see him really discover his full potential as a builder, to actually change himself into the thing and not just making other things.
Yeah, that was the real turning point in issue 6, where it seemed like, okay, well, now that John is figuring out how, and he talks us through it as readers, he's like, hey, we can ourselves be the light of will, which is incorruptible, indestructible. We'll defeat the Revenant Queen. And then she pulls him into this other world. And that's where we kick off with issue 7, which comes out this coming Wednesday, where he's kind of in this, I don't want to use the word dark multiverse because obviously Scott Snyder's done that, but he's in this other place where the Revenants have even more power. What can you talk to us about, without spoiling, about what we're going to see with John? It seems like his thing, when he gets in trouble, he's kind of lost out there in space. He doesn't even know where he actually is. How does he get home? So what can you tease for that going forward for the next arc?
Man, so the trick is going to be talking about without spoiling it because there's so much to get into. But I'll say this: the first arc was about John's like torn sense of duty. His duty is kind of the thing that defines who John is, and that first arc was just all about John himself and all the different roles that he plays as a human being. But his sense of duty is the thing that kind of ties it all together. And we were trying to, we saw him struggling between his duty to his family and his duty to the universe when he's thrust into this situation. The second arc is still very much about John, but it's also very much about mythology at this point. Like this is the arc where we explore how does Green Lantern mythology tie into my work on Superman? How does it tie into the fourth world? How does it? What will it tie into after this? Green Lantern, the Green Lantern mythos is just so vast and old and just, evergreen. There's just so much you can draw from because it's just been out there so long and such a wide canvas. So this is going to be about that mythology. I want to see why are will and light so intrinsically linked in Green Lantern mythology. And we have an answer for that question in this arc. Why is the chosen weapon of the Green Lantern Corps a ring always? Why not a sword or a shield or a suit of armor or something else? Like why is it a ring? We have an answer for that in this arc. So this is the arc in which we kind of just make the world a lot bigger. We established the stakes and the characters in the first arc, and in this arc, everything just gets so much bigger and older and wide-reaching.
Yeah, it's fascinating, especially like you said, for a character and a mythos and a core and a concept that's been around for so long, right? And you're tying it in, like you said, with your Superman run. We know so far that the Revenant Queen is the daughter of Olgrun, and she's been corrupted somehow. That's still a mystery. I can't wait to figure out how that works. But the other part of this, in Jeremy Adams' most recent issue of Green Lantern, we got a little bit of an expansion, found out there's a power battery, a failsafe battery on Earth. It seems like it might tie into the green, the Swamp Thing sort of power. For a concept that's been around so long, I think one of the things that's so great about what you and Jeremy are doing, you're not retreading old ground. You're adding things that make sense and are a lot of fun and are exciting for us as readers to enjoy. How much are you collaborating or going back and forth with Jeremy, and how fun is it to add those new concepts?
Oh, it's the best. Jeremy's a great collaborator. He is just perpetually excited to be in this project. He loves comics. He loves DC. He loves the Green Lantern stuff. So he just has this infectious energy, and it's really fun to collaborate with somebody like that. It's like, what if we did this? We could do this, and he's constantly just like throwing out new ideas. He just kind of he comes up with ideas like a kid, and then you both become grown-ups and figure out how it would all work if you actually do the thing. So it makes a really fun collaboration. Um, yeah, man, I don't know. I can't say there's so much stuff coming. I can't say too much about what's coming, but I just say that working with Jeremy on this stuff has been just really great because we and I are very different writers. We approach this stuff very differently. Um, with him, it's like, man, this is going to be, if we do this thing, it's going to make the story, comics are so fun and cool. And with me, I'm like, if we do this other thing, it could be like this hidden truth. It's all about like, mythology and being deep and unexpectedly dark and, just work, kind of bouncing ideas off of each other in that way has been just really fun.
Fantastic. Well, I really appreciate the time, Philip. I usually like to end asking something about a moment or a story point that's coming up that you're really excited for people to see. But I'm going to switch it up this time. I want to know, is there something that you would have liked to have fit in the first arc that you just didn't have room for? Can you give us any kind of hint what it might have been if there was something you just didn't have room for?
Um, if I had had more room in the first arc, it would have been fun to show more like buddy cop stuff between John and Shepard. Let's get to know each other even more. It was fun to see them, get to know each other and explore where Shepard came from, explore what John meant to him there, and see him become like at first kind of disappointed in John when he got over here, and see them kind of gain that respect. It would have been cool to learn more about Shepard's upbringing and how why he loves the lanterns like he does, why that was the only thing he ever wanted to do, and he's like this true believer. It would have been really fun to really dig into that deep and see what makes them both so special and see their shortcomings as well, and see them kind of see the rough edges kind of catch on each other to cause some little conflicts here and there. That would have been really fun. But I try to do as much of that as I could in the story. But so much of that is also tied up in the threat that they're facing and the big visuals and everything. So sometimes there's hard decisions.
Yeah, I've loved Shepard, getting to know him. You're right. There's a little bit of that back and forth buddy cop. But yeah, I would love to learn more about him. You have enough in that brain ears, Shepard 4-issue mini. Could we make that happen?
Oh my God. Yeah. Yeah.
All right. From our lips to DC's ears. All right.
Yeah,
well, again, it's been fantastic catching up, Philip. Series is just great. Keep up the great work. Any last words for our listeners?
No, just keep following what we're doing. It's we're building up something really big. And for any Green Lantern fan of any of the Green Lantern characters, we're making a story that has far-reaching consequences as far as the history, kind of like this hidden origin sort of the Green Lanterns and the Guardians. So there's a lot to find there for any Green Lantern reader.
Yeah, and I'll also add this, listeners. This has such rereadability. I reread the first arc again in preparation to talk to Philip, and I was like, oh man, it's even better the second time around. So thanks so much for your time, Philip. We really appreciate it. And to all you listeners, we appreciate you tuning in as well. And we'll talk to you next time.
Happy birthday, Jace.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
You can find the Comic Source podcast on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Stitcher, Google Play, or whichever podcasting app you prefer. Please tell all your friends about us, subscribe, and rate us. The ratings really help with our visibility and our ability to reach new listeners, especially 5-star reviews on Apple. Also be sure to visit us at lrmonline.com to join the conversation, access the show notes, and discover all our other great pop culture content. If you want to email us, the email address is thecomicsourceblog@gmail.com, or you can follow us on Twitter, twitter.com/thecomicsource. Do a search for The Comic Source on Facebook and Instagram to follow us on those social platforms. All 3 spots are great places to find out when we release new episodes, as well as follow all our convention coverage. So once again, we want to thank everyone for listening, and we'll talk to you next time.